The Beckett estate in Northern California was a world of its own, gated, silent, and immaculately sterile. 6-year-old Lily Beckett, daughter of renowned tech mogul Harold Beckett, had never walked a day in her life. Diagnosed with a rare neuromuscular disorder at birth, she lived between specialists and machines. Her father, a man who had turned code into fortune, believed that science could fix anything. Yet after years of surgeries, robotics, and imported therapies, Lily's legs remained. Still, her eyes, once hopeful, now observed the world passively from behind glass windows. Despite wealth, something intangible was slipping further out of reach. Harold's latest attempt at escape was a summer retreat in the Napa countryside, a sprawling vineyard estate not far from the foothills where wildflowers grew uninvited. And time moved slower. The idea was to disconnect Lily from clinical routines and reconnect her with nature. Adjacent to the estate lived Elias Grant, a solitary farmer whose land was stitched together with rusted wire and wisdom. Locals told stories about him, how he healed wounded horses, calmed anxious children, and once coaxed a mute boy to speak after a summer spent tending goats. Harold dismissed the tales as rural myth. Lily first saw Elias from her window, plowing his field by hand at sunrise. Something about him, his quiet, measured pace, made her curious. On the third morning, Elias walked over to the fence, separating their worlds, and offered her a wooden sparrow he had carved. No words, just a nod. The next day, it was a smooth stone painted like a ladybug. Slowly, Lily began smiling again. When Harold noticed, he assumed it was the fresh air or perhaps a temporary lift. But Lily began asking when she could sit outside, to wait for the farmer. One day, Elias approached Harold with a gentle, almost embarrassed tone and said, "Let me try." The words hung in the air. Harold blinked. "You're a farmer, not a doctor." Elias didn't argue. He simply said, "She listens to the ground more than machines." Against his better judgment, or perhaps because judgment had failed him so many times, Harold agreed. But he set rules. Supervised sessions only, no lifting, and certainly no untested therapies. Elias nodded, understanding more than Harold knew. The next morning, Lily and Elias sat beneath a sycamore tree, bare feet touching the grass. Elias never spoke of walking or healing. He spoke of soil, of beetles and birds. He handed Lily different textures: bark, clay, cold water in a tin bowl. He guided her in balancing feathers on her palm. Day after day, small routines began shaping Lily's mornings. She laughed when snails tickled her fingers and beamed when she kept a small pebble balanced for 10 seconds. Harold observed from afar, skeptical yet unable to deny the shift. Lily's posture straightened. Her hands grew steadier. Something was awakening, but not just in her limbs, it was in her spirit. Then came the morning that changed everything. Under the sycamore, while tracing patterns in the dirt with a stick, Lily shifted her weight forward and pushed her right foot slightly ahead. It was no more than 2 inches, but it was deliberate. Harold rushed forward, eyes wide. "Did you see that?" Elias gave no triumphant speech. He merely nodded and whispered, "She did." Tears welled in Harold's eyes, not from the movement alone, but from realizing his daughter had begun trusting her body again. It was the first sign of something he'd nearly forgotten, hope not engineered, but nurtured. From that moment under the sycamore, Lily's progress unfolded in small but profound increments. Elias never praised movement, he acknowledged presence. When Lily managed to hold herself upright without support for several seconds, he offered her a smooth pine cone. "Balance recognizes balance," he said softly. Harold, watching from the terrace, found himself learning the very thing millions hadn't taught him: patience. For a man who had once obsessed over data points and milestones, the shift was humbling. And yet, every tiny motion Lily made now felt more valuable than all the technologies he'd ever invested in. Elias brought her to the creek one morning. It was shallow and calm, framed by reeds and skipping stones. He placed her at the edge and stood in the water barefoot. "Feet remember," he said. Lily slowly dipped her toes in. The chill made her giggle, and soon she was standing barely, but upright. Elias held out his arms, not to catch her, but to guide her. She leaned forward, her knees trembling, then took a step. She nearly fell, but Elias didn't flinch. He let her stumble, trusting her instinct. She steadied herself, lips parted in disbelief. Harold documented everything in silence. His phone never raised, no photos taken. This was not something to be captured for shareholders or interviews. This was his daughter reclaiming something sacred, something unquantifiable. The estate's physical therapist, skeptical at first, began incorporating Elias's methods: earthy textures, slow breathing, rhythm through nature. Harold began joining them, walking barefoot, lifting smooth stones, staying silent. The man who once filled every silence with plans was now learning the power of stillness, and Lily flourished within it, not just physically, emotionally, even spiritually. Her laughter returned like a song remembered by heart. By late summer, Lily could walk 10 paces with assistance and balance on one foot for several seconds. Her legs remained fragile, but her confidence had bloomed. One afternoon, she asked to walk to Elias's farm. Harold hesitated, but Elias nodded. They went together, Lily between them, taking slow steps down the dirt path, sun filtering through branches. When they reached Elias's porch, she looked up and whispered, "I made it." Elias handed her a single seed. "Then plant something with it," he said. "New strength grows from where old belief ends." She gripped the seed like treasure. When the time came for the Becketts to return to the city, Lily stood on the steps of the estate with her walker. She turned back toward Elias, who stood by the fence as always. "Will you come visit?" she asked. He smiled, but said nothing. Instead, he handed Harold a small cloth pouch, inside 6 more carved sparrows, each unique. "For the days she forgets what she's capable of," Elias said. Harold, overcome, offered a handshake that became an embrace. "You changed everything," he whispered. Elias only replied, "She changed herself. I just reminded her she could." Back in the city, Lily's progress stunned her doctors. But Harold didn't rush back to surgical plans or synthetic braces. Instead, he built her a small indoor garden filled with soil and scents from Elias's farm. Lily's walker stayed near, but she used it less each week. When asked by reporters later about the man who had helped her walk, Harold simply said, "He didn't fix her, he saw her." And the world, for all its machinery and medicine, was reminded that healing sometimes lives not in progress, but in patience, presence, and quiet trust in the human spirit.